I thought I was only doing figure skating, Yuzuru Hanyu says, choosing his words carefully. It's been about a year since he turned professional. We are watching the evolution of this expressive athlete. Lately I've been trying to look objectively at how I look in certain clothes and trying to think about how I want those clothes to look, which may sound a bit unusual, but I work with the image, listening to the voice of the clothes, as if to ask, what do these little ones want to look like? I also pay attention to what angle, photographer, Mika Ninagawa is shooting from, what kind of atmosphere she wants to get, and move as I see fit according to that. That change has happened in the last 6 months. About 6 months ago, it wasn't any kind of program, but I was just moving on my own, feeling the atmosphere of the studio and so on. And then during the shoot I felt the awesomeness of the material for the first time and thought that the clothes had a will. After that my approach changed. Perhaps this means that you have gained for yourself a new way of expressing yourself in a situation such as a shoot? Yes, that's right, Hanyu nods. Yuzuru Hanyu began his journey as a professional last summer, tackling some unprecedented challenges and achieving great success. As he looks back on the past year in which he transitioned, he talks about the horizons that have opened up for him. It's been more than a year since Yuzuru Hanyu held a press conference on July 19, 2022, to announce that he was ending his competitive life and starting a new one as a professional figure skater, and that he would continue to challenge himself as an athlete. And in that time, Hanyu has not just challenged himself, but has exceeded expectations, achieving incredible success. In his first ice show as a professional skater, Prologue, November 2022, Yokohama, December 2022, Hachinahe, he surprised everyone. Yuzuru was the only member of the show, and it was the first solo performance of its kind in history. Hanyu chose a story about his colorful life in figure skating as the composition of the nearly 2-hour show, and then after the Prologue tour in February, he gave another surprise show, The Gift, GIFT. It was the second, in the world, solo show after Prologue and was held at the Tokyo Dome, which was also a first in the history of competition and ice shows. After Prologue, I became aware of the various challenges of putting on a one-person show, and I think The Gift is a refined version of that experience. I think that Prologue was a kind of experiment, or rather, it was my first one-person ice show, and the very fact to be the only skater in the program for almost 2 hours was not fully explored. After Prologue, the various challenges of putting on a one-person show became clear to me, and I think The Gift is a refined version of that experience. It felt like a finished piece, including staging aspects such as the room, lighting, etc. Of course I put all my feelings into it, but I think this show was more about the flow of creativity itself. According to Hanyu, the show's success was due to the fact that it made full use of the Tokyo Dome, a huge space unprecedented in the history of figure skating. But that's not all. First of all, the story created by Hanyu himself was presented on a giant monitor that broadcast video alongside the performances on the ice at Tokyo Dome, and the story itself, and the strong message woven into those performances, also contributed greatly to the success of The Gift. Once again, Yuzuru talks about his feelings invested in The Gift. We all experience feelings of loneliness, and the reason for that could be the coronavirus epidemic, or like for me, the Great East Japan earthquake, or something like that, but if you live in society and try to relate to it with empathy, you probably think that loneliness is present everywhere. But even if you think you're lonely, no matter how desperate you are, somewhere deep down you must have some hope or dream, because maybe you've just locked it away inside of you. In my case, I have everyone supporting and encouraging me, so I can move forward in pursuit of my dream. But throughout my life I have been convinced that even if I don't feel supported by anyone, the hopes and dreams within me keep me going, which is why I chose this particular topic. The success was also evident in the many responses. A lot of people came who weren't too interested in figure skating before, but found it interesting as entertainment. I was very pleased to hear them say that in some ways it was different from figure skating, that they had never seen a show like this and that no show had given them such food for thought. This suggests that the show transcended the figure skating genre. After 2 solo shows, Note Stellata was held in Miyagi Prefecture from March 10 to 12 this year. I think Note Stellata is the direct opposite of the gift show. It has become more of a fulfillment of my personal wishes and prayers than a work of art. 12 years have passed since the Great East Japan earthquake on March 11, 2011. A performance filled with thoughts of the people and cities affected by the disaster is something that Hanyu was finally able to realize, precisely because of his transition to the pros and freedom from the constraints of a competitive schedule. This may have been one of the reasons why Hanyu's strong feelings and prayers, and not only Hanyu's, were felt on the ice. Note Stellata featured skaters from Japan and abroad. But it was Hanyu's centrality that made it possible to deliver those prayers at the heart of their performances. After 3 shows, each with its own special meaning, Hanyu takes on Stars on Ice and the annual Fantasy on Ice show. I felt that I should retain a sense of pride for my performance in Tokyo Dome and Stars on Ice, because it was after performing in Tokyo Dome that I skated, fully putting myself out for one number. In that sense, I think I was able to do something completely new in Phantom of the Opera, even though that program was also performed by me in The Gift. In Fantasy on Ice there is a strong feeling that I am performing with my friends. It's like a home for me where I have warm feelings, but at the same time I have to be sincere to the music of the artists and not forget what is expressed in this music, what is the artist's worldview, and I hope that I was able to convey that in my choreography. A marvelous person, versatile and surprisingly modest, but full of restrained dignity. Open and sincere, and at the same time able to preserve and keep personal and intimate. I have no idea how rich his inner world is. And most of all I admire this irrepressible desire to learn new things and not to stop at what has been achieved. I was also very intrigued by this phrase about choreography: you need to learn not only your own style, but also the ideas of professionals in this field. Does this mean that perhaps in the future we will have something incredibly interesting in this field as well? We need a teacher with a serious choreographic background, attentive and experienced. Yuzuru Hanyu is very plastic, he knows how to feel music, he is a hard worker like few others. If he really suddenly wants to do something in this direction, I am sure that with a skillful teacher the result will exceed all expectations.